You guys ready?
Yeah.
We starting ready? No, 6. Huh? Oh, I think that's wrong.
It is?
Call to order the regular meeting of the Tonganoxie USD 464 Board of Education for April 8th, 2024. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I would move that we approve the agenda with the exception of removing item number 2.7 from the consent agenda, math textbook adoption, and add that same item, math textbook adoption, to the action item list. Do I have a second?
Second it.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. All the same sign. Motion carried 6-0. With that, I think we'll jump into reports. So 1.4, District Social Worker Report. And did want to recognize Shelby Burnett as the 2024 Kansas School Social Worker of the Year by the Kansas Social Worker Association. So congratulations.
Okay, so the social work team wanted to gather some data for you guys and kind of just go over our district-wide impact since we've had full-time social workers in the district for over 5 years. So my name is Shelby Burnett. I'm a clinical social worker and I've been in the district for 6 years, and I'm at the elementary school currently.
I'm Sophia Hubble. I have been in education for 6 years, in the district for 3 years, and I'm over at the high school. Amber Ketchum is away. She's our middle school social worker. She's been with us this is her 2nd year. So there is a full-time social worker in each building. So our plan tonight is just to go through a little bit about, how many students we have per building, how many students we're serving, and common themes within those student meetings, okay? So per building right now, Tonganoxie Elementary School has 902 students. Middle school has 432, and Tonganoxie High School was at 662. So I wanted you to be mindful of this as we go over our numbers because the needs in each building vary as much as student enrollment does. So just because Shelby has 902 in her building doesn't mean that she's doing a better job than another person. Really, it's kind of like apples to oranges, but we want to give you guys an idea of what we're doing. So one great thing that I've noticed since I've come on in the district is we have had a downward trend in our mental health hospitalizations. Now there's no way to say a full-time social worker in each building has caused this decrease, but it is certainly happening. For the first time in my 3 years at the high school, we are reporting a single-digit number. We've had a total of 4 hospitalizations, 1 at the middle school and none at the elementary school this year.
And just to add on to that, mental health hospitalizations typically means students are unable to be safe at home, either having suicidality or behavioral impulses that make their home environment unsafe. So parents seek a more intense, that's the correct word, a more intense resource for them to help with their safety. So just in case you guys weren't familiar. So in the elementary school, I serve both special education and general education students. This year, I have had 562 special education sessions, and that is around 14,000 direct minutes. And I have 3 students that are currently in pending evaluations, which if they qualify for social work services, then my total for caseload will go up to 17 students, either weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. It varies upon their need. So there is some fluctuation. I've been able to dismiss 3 students this year, which is great. Typically when we dismiss students, it's because of goal completion. So like if a student is needing to improve their social skills, they've met those goals and we've had data to show that they've maintained that growth, or they have transferred to a different school or a different program. So 562 special education contacts this year is what I am at. And this data was compiled from August 16th to April 4th. So really as of last Thursday, this is the most recent data that the team was able to put together for everybody. So general education students, I serve pre-K through 5th grade. I do have a couple of SPED students that are pre-K level, but they don't have direct minutes, so they're counted as general education students. So I'm up to 715 sessions for general education student contact, roughly scheduling about 450 minutes per week with my general education students, and I roughly have about 22 general education students on my caseload at all times. Something really exciting that I'm very grateful that Calesta was letting us do this year is we're doing daily pre-K lessons for social skills and for emotional regulation. So for example, our counselors are going in kindergarten through 5th grade once every other week and having counselor lessons and counselor time. And this year the pre-K kiddos get to have me and sometimes my therapy dog Lily go in, and we're talking about soft skills. We're using their solutions focused suitcase. We're working on those really early learning skills for them to help them be able to regulate better as they get older. And the teachers seem to really like it. I'm in a classroom every day for about 15 to 20 minutes. Teachers direct me on the students' growth centers, and then we just go from there. So when we're looking at general education services, right now our highest level grade is kindergarten. Our second highest was tied between 2nd grade and pre-K. And pre-K is mainly because, like I said, I'm in those grade level every day. So really it's just 2nd grade, but I didn't want pre-K not to be represented because we know the younger our students are, the more high needs they can be. And then our third highest is our 3rd grade students. And this data is tracked via Google form, and it is confidential to the best of our abilities. We do not have a program to say, like, here's all of our documentation for our general education students. So we've been using Google form to track our sessions district-wide, and it's been really helpful to give us these graphs and to help us be able to track our impact. So minutes per contact, typically I pull students between 30 to 20 to 30, 15-ish minutes. So 15 to 30, that's the better way. And how I do this is I schedule it with the teacher to make sure it's a non-academic time that they're being pulled out of for direct services. So right now the themes that we're seeing for the gen ed kiddos is emotional regulation, relationship building, and that can either be with adults or same age peers, and then classroom lessons, and that's predominantly our pre-K students, and then classroom engagement and executive functioning. This one is an interesting one this year because I'm pushing in much more with general ed students compared to in the past, and at this time it's helping like work initiation, helping us create increase our stamina, and so this is a newer one that I'm seeing as coming up this school year. And then guardian updates and social skills. Does anybody, so together, sorry, I've had 1,277 total student family contacts, and that's just combining the numbers from gen ed and SPED. So estimated caseload for next year is 33 students starting in August. General education students' families are contacted to see if they want to continue services or what their student needs when they come back to August. However, at least 14 of those are carried over IEPs that will be on my caseload next year. Anybody have any questions about that information?
You mentioned using the Google form and that it hopefully is anonymous. Have we explored a system that is built for purpose for what you need?
We have not explored that, and that's simply because we've been using this form for about 4 years now, and we're trying to make sure that we have all the kinks worked out. So what it looks like is the person fills it out. So Sophia has one for the high school, Amber has one for the middle school, and I have one for the elementary school. We put the student name, the date, and the time that we pull them from class, along with what we're working on in a goal, and then a brief summary. It just helps us keep track of things. We have not looked into anything formal for general education students, though it could be beneficial.
Look a little closer if we're at all concerned about confidentiality.
Okay.
We ought to look into that.
And I will say our special education students, we can bill through Medicaid, and so we can put all of their notes, even if they're not eligible for Medicaid, we can put their notes in that system, and that is a confidentiality or a confidential system. We just don't have that for general education.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned, Amber's not here, so I will go over her numbers tonight and answer any questions that you all may have to the best of my abilities. So Amber's our middle school social worker. She has had ran a caseload of about 13 special education students this year, averaging about 6,000 minutes. Of those 6,000, she's had 205 direct contacts, And she reported having no pending evaluations right now, meaning that nobody is awaiting approval of special education services. She has had 352 general education contacts, and she schedules about 400 minutes per week for her general education caseload. And we all operate the same way as Shelby described, whether our sessions are weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, so I won't review that each time. One unique thing about Amber and her role is that she does classroom lessons monthly, and then she also helps with lunch duty coverage, where she gets to check in with students, work on building some relationships, kind of see how the middle schoolers are interacting with their peers, which for that grade level is a great opportunity. They prefer those very casual check-ins versus formalized services. Most of her time, as you can see, is spent 43% in classroom lessons and 44% in individual session with students. She is averaging about half of her time at 30 minutes. And then she does have some sessions that are lasting longer, about 27%. And then you'll notice there's a missed section area here also. Hers is at 13%, so I want to talk a little bit about how that works. If we are scheduled to meet with a student and they are not at school that day, we go in and we just indicate that it was a missed session. That helps us be able to track whenever we talk with parents or we do progress reporting, team updates, anything like that. However, every time we miss a student, we try at least 2 other times that same week to see them. So typically, even if there's a missed session, there will be a session with that student within the week of their return. Okay. Similar to Tonganoxie Elementary School, she is running about 57% of her areas of focus are around emotional regulation, 35% classroom engagement, and 32% family struggles. She also does a lot of communication and self-advocacy work. That's especially true for our 6th graders as they're learning how to communicate with teachers and stay on track of things like missing assignments that maybe they never had to worry about before. So she definitely helps out in her building with those things. And so for Amber, she's had 557 student contacts, 352 general education, and 205 special education. And she's estimating starting her year with about 18 students. Any questions about the middle school before we go over to the high school? No? Okay. So I have had 509 special education contacts, about 11,000 minutes so far this school year. My current caseload, my caseload this school year was 20. I was able to dismiss 4 students. We had 2 graduate completely, and then we had 2 other students that were able to graduate from social work support. So that's great. I also do not have any pending evaluations, but I'm expecting to get about 5 more that'll come up from the middle school plus any move-in, so that'll put my SPED numbers to about 21 is what I'm estimating just for special education at the start of next school year. In reference to general education, I've had 323 student contacts. I see about 15 general ed students per week. I didn't put my minutes listed because my services fluctuate a bit. Sometimes if I'm working with a student for executive functioning needs, I may only spend 5 minutes with them, but I may do that twice a week. I also had the opportunity this school year to provide an executive functioning small group where I meet with students for 8 weeks. It's about 6 to 8 students per group. And that's not reflected very well within this number. So we'll be brainstorming ways to kind of better show growth or progress from that service, hopefully next school year. Minutes per contact for me are pretty comparable to what we're all seeing in the building. Most of my contact is about 20 minutes. I do have some students that, when they're escalated or they're having a difficult day, it may take me a long time. So as you can see, I have, 17% that are about 30 minutes each, and I have some that even go into that hour time frame. if I'm having a kid for that long, it really is truly because they're in crisis. Obviously, we would never want a student to miss that much instruction if it were possible to prevent. Grade level contact, you can see here the highest grade level of need at this time at the high school is 10th grade. About 41% of my interactions are with 10th graders alone. 5% classroom lessons and push-ins. 9th grade about 16%, and then 17 and 18% for the other grade levels. So those are pretty split. We have some high need students in our 10th grade class that I'm able to support. So areas of focus for me, again, emotional regulation. About 75% of my work with students is spent on helping them learn how to regulate their emotions and better cope with those. 44% executive functioning. So when I say executive functioning, that is helping kids learn how to study. So teaching children, how do you organize, how do you plan, how do you prioritize, how do you actually study for a test, how do you use a planner? Things of those natures. We found that that skill is not at a level that we would like it to be at when students are coming in. So that small group has really helped with that. 18% family stressors and 15% conflict resolution. And when I say conflict resolution, 9 times out of 10, that's with a peer. So total contacts for myself has been 832. And I am expecting to start the school year next year with about 35 on my caseload in August. And that number changes from August to September. We normally see a lot of growth just as kids get settled into the building and we figure out what their needs are. Some students who needed support this year might not need it next year, and vice versa. All right. Questions? No?
Any idea what our trend in needs has been? I mean, is it growing, flat?
Yeah, it's definitely growing. So my first year in the district, I was split between the high school and the middle school. And we were able to use data very similar to this to get Amber into the middle school building. So each year that I do this, and we would be happy to provide something something a little more historical for you guys if you would like it, to show you kind of what those numbers have looked like over the course of the last, we could do 3 years, but really this is the second school year where we've had someone in each building. I know that's not a direct answer, and I'm sorry.
No, that's, I mean, just a generalization of what's, because I don't know, we had one or maybe none. It seemed like we were pretty thin when I first got on here, and we continued to add.
So I came to the district in August of 2018, and I had the entire district to myself for 3 school years and was drowning. It's a lot for one person to meet the needs of 3 buildings while also being present at that time in the community of the buildings. And so I was able to provide that data. Sophia came, we provide more data like you said, and Amber came. Even at the elementary school right now with having 902 students, it's a lot. How many ways was I supposed to know? I mean, yeah, we're definitely seeing the needs grow, especially when our kiddos are coming out of that COVID area. Our 3rd graders right now, like I had shown on the screen, we really need a lot of support, and they're going to be our 4th graders next year, and eventually our 5th and our 6th graders. And so we are seeing a need with our younger students to have those more regular check-ins and those skills that, you know, counselors every other week, they are doing their best and they're covering, but we also need that secondary support of social workers to come in to work on those more redefined skills. So in my experience at the elementary school, I've probably seen at least a 5 to 6% increase from just last year to this year when it comes to needs. And last year I was on maternity leave half of the year, and I still see a huge need.
Any other questions that we might be able to answer?
What do you need? What can the board or the admin do to help you?
Thank you for asking. We really appreciate that.
You know, I think what's most helpful for me is having a good team in my building that I can go to and, you know, talk to them when things are hard, or, you know, Shelby, myself, and Amber do a lot of collaborating because sometimes there are unknowns. So right now, to answer that question, what we need is for you guys to just continue to support us and allow us to work with students in the building. The purpose tonight was really just so that you all know what we're doing and what our numbers look like. We haven't had the opportunity to do this before, so we really wanted to just get in here say, hey, here's what we're doing. But if, as specific things come up, we will definitely, bring that to the attention of our administrators, and then, obviously you guys if needed.
I will say that this year we have been meeting with the Baser social worker team through the co-op, because since we are half gen ed, half sped, we're obviously funded half through sped. So we've had the opportunity to collaborate with the Baser social workers once a quarter, I think it is roughly, and that's been helpful when it comes to like looking at intervention and finding additional support. So finding additional times for us to collaborate, such as PD days and such, have been really helpful as well.
So how many different ways do you have to identify students that are needing your help?
I'm gonna close this. So if they're going through a special education evaluation, there's a process that goes right along with that. That's pretty detailed. If they are a general education student, we rely on parents reaching out to us, classroom teacher referrals, grade level referrals. So like from our grade level team meetings, if a student's name is brought up, that's something that's going to come to us. And then also just our observations as we're in classrooms doing push-in services and helping students really use the skills that we're teaching. And we notice that, there's somebody that hasn't spoken that whole time, or maybe nobody's interacted with them. That's a student that I'm going to find a way to interact with.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
And this is not,
Questions, we appreciate it.
and help me out, this isn't, I think we're all supportive of this, but I think, do we get some sort of, is it with the county? It's not really on,
The health grant.
the funding, obviously some portion is special ed, which
Sorry?
that's been an issue. Okay, I thought when we set one of these up, there was,
Not social workers. We do have a position over at the high school that's funded through a mental health grant.
okay,
And
that's
that-
what I was thinking of,
Yeah.
so, sorry,
No,
I knew
that's
there
okay.
was some,
Well, and that has also helped, having the mental health initiative grant and having Riley in the high school has helped with Sophia's numbers as well, compared to me not having that counterpart when it comes to mental health. Because our counselors are really focused on those general classroom lessons and small groups and some individual skills, but when it comes to the higher level mental health needs of students, typically that falls within my realm. Sophia and I are actually both in a doctoral program right now, and we will graduate in about 2 years with our doctorate of social work. And so we're also seeking like higher education to help support those needs and guide the new social workers that will eventually come in to help with that gap of learning as well.
that's awesome.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you very
You're
much.
very welcome. Thank you guys. We appreciate the opportunity.
Mrs. Blazo? Would you like to sit?
No, I'm good. Thank you, though. I appreciate it.
No crutches tonight.
No crutches. They freed me of those, thankfully. So I have get more information tomorrow.
Okay.
So,
It'll come up.
come on up here. So this evening, I would like to talk to you about a proposal that we want to do at the elementary school to help streamline some MTSS processes and kind of develop a procedure in the building a little bit. So talking about some classroom movement. Right now, when you look at the elementary school, the setup at the elementary is we have kindergarten, second, and fourth grade upstairs, and we have first grade, third grade, and fifth grade downstairs. And then we've talked before that pre-K is kind of sprinkled throughout there. We have some in second grade, some in kindergarten, and some in first grade, as well as our special education teachers are sprinkled throughout, and our occupational therapists as well. So one of the things I was able to do is go and observe Paola's MTSS process, which was, they've seen great growth in their academics through this process, and it got me thinking a little bit about how we could do this at Tonganoxie. So right now, some of the challenges with our current structure of having it split the way it is we have limited vertical alignment due to grade levels being throughout the building. Kindergarten, first and second can't collaborate together because first grade's downstairs. And so it makes it really difficult for that vertical alignment or those conversations, those collaborative conversations about what standards is kindergarten covering and how do we, build on that in first grade and what does second grade need and those types of things. It also provides limited opportunities for revising our BSP, which is what we call our Brave Support Period. Really what that is our multi-tiered system of support. So when we identify gaps that students have in their learning, we use this dedicated time to fill those gaps in. And with the model that I was able to observe, the way they do this is 3rd through 5th grade. Right now, we have an individual MTSS time for each grade level. So we have MTSS going on 6 times in our building a day. What they do is, to streamline it, is they utilize their 3rd through 5th grade students intermingle. So if we were able to structure the building where 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade were all on the same grade level, we could use that same process, and we would be using all of our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers to provide services, which would make smaller groups for students, which is really what we want when we're looking at those tiered systems of support. Because we want to be able to really work in those areas that the students have those learning gaps. Right now, one of the challenges is when we have 8 teachers and we're trying to service 123 students, those groups get very large, and so we are doing a disservice to have those larger groups and not being able to really provide that individual instruction that we need. And one of the other challenges is our 1st grade students are downstairs, and they're pretty little when they come in for 1st grade. And so just that travel time coming up and down the stairs to go to specials or lunch or, any of those other challenges of moving up and down the stairs takes quite a while. So we're losing instructional time when we have them moving up and down. Some of the benefits of the redesign is, like I mentioned, the streamlined BSP process, allowing the cross grade level support. So we would be utilizing, anywhere from, I'm trying to think of what our numbers would be, 20 teachers if we had 3rd through 5th grade working together versus 7. So we would be able to look at that and make those groups smaller and pull in some of our interventionists and those kinds of things to support that as well. The opportunities for vertical alignment access due to being close to each other. Right now, like I mentioned, kindergarten can't run downstairs on their plan period and talk to 1st grade, and 1st grade can't run upstairs and talk to 2nd grade. But if we had them all on the same floor and had access to each other, then that would make that more of a probability of them being able to have those conversations. And then allowing our younger students to all be on the 1st floor reduces that travel time, and it gives us more instructional time in the classroom. So our proposal is that we move 27 general education students, so that's 4 grade levels. Kindergarten and 5th grade will not have to move because they're already in the correct location on the correct floor. So we would move 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. One of the things that we talked about when I started discussing this with my leadership team is, well, cubbies are lower and these different types of things. So that would be some of the challenges, is that for some of the grade levels moving, we would have to lift the cubbies a little bit, and I've talked to Mitch about that. And then, some of the lower grade levels that are moving up to an older grade level, we'd lower them a little bit, so just to make it more accessible for the students. And then we've also discussed the possibility of compensating teacher for 2 days to set up over the summer. If you've ever moved a classroom, I don't know, Stephanie has, I have, Linda has, it's a lot to move a classroom. And so giving them that time to be able to set up and be prepared for their students to come in August and ready to go is one of the areas that we discussed. So in conclusion, I tried to make it short and sweet. So it'll allow for primary and an intermediate setting to allow those students to be grouped together based on ability and instructional need. Provides opportunities for vertical collaboration with those consecutive grade levels. And then it creates a consistency for students as they progress through their educational career at TES. When I give tours to parents, one of the things they talk about, well, why is 1st grade downstairs with 3rd grade? And, it does get a little bit confusing when we're looking at, well, you go start at kindergarten and then you go downstairs for 1st and up for 2nd and down for 3rd. And so it makes a lot of sense to have it K1, 2 upstairs and then 3, 4, 5 downstairs. So, questions?
I have one.
Yes.
Well, I've moved classrooms a lot of times, and it really does take more than 2 days. Is there any way, like the work day before or the PD day before school is out, or right at the end of that school year, is there any way that they could use that day instead of having PD? Or
Yeah, I actually talked to a teacher about that today.
Did you?
And so we do have the half day on the 17th, which is the last day of school. So we have that half day, and then there's a work day that Tuesday after. So I don't know if you want to.
So let me talk logistically.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I come in with Mitch, is we would need to hire a company similar to what we hired when we moved in here and into the high school. That was, you might remember the name Fry Wagner. That was a company that we hired. So we have contacted the main contractor, and so we have a bid from them. I don't have two bids yet, but we do have one bid from them, and what it would cost for them to bring in the boxes for the packing, the setup to assist in the move from the classroom. We would stage everything in the gyms over the summer, and so that they can make all of their cleaning, like the floors, move the cubbies. There'll be some painting involved. You know, we have the colors, as you know, that would have to be adjusted. Some murals would have to be adjusted. And then that same company would help move all of that packed boxes into the classroom. So there would be assistance,
Okay.
okay?
And then when school starts at the beginning of the year, will they be given more time to be able to unpack everything?
No, they would, we're talking
2
2 days during the summer to unpack, that we would pay the teachers for that.
So they could come in, I think Mitch and I talked about July
July
20th.
15th.
Yeah.
July 15th is a Monday, so we shoot to have the move done by then. So sometime between July 15th and then that August 10th or whatever, 2 extra days in there to unpack. And then the packing process would actually just be to end the school year.
Yeah.
And we know it's a lot of work. We understand that, but you know, one of the things I noticed when I came here was, why did we have 1-3-5 K-4? And we all know, I guess, through this is the 2 on the end are the larger classrooms. The kindergarten and the first grade are larger classrooms by design. But it does limit the collaboration, the vertical alignment that we really need. It makes sense. So I support this wholeheartedly, because this is where literally it should have been, in my opinion. And it's going to take some work and effort. Mitch, we talked about this. His crew is going to have to assist in this, so this will be a primary summer project for his crew. You know, so it's not just on the teachers. We have a lot of people involved in helping make this happen. So, and make it as least stressful as possible, because we do know that it takes a lot of time and effort.
I thought there was something within the portions of the building, even the plumbing in the bathrooms. I mean, is there something we're not moving big kids down somewhere?
No, we
Okay.
actually, Mr. Bowers and I actually went through and measured all the toilets and all the sinks and all the cubbies.
I trust you.
Yeah, we did. We're like, okay, let's check it out and see. And it's usually like 3/4 to maybe, a little bit more of a difference. So it's not a huge difference in the restrooms. And, we measured a first grade restroom, and then a second grade, and then, third and fourth. So just to kind of compare and see.
Do we have ballpark costs?
Yes,
Plans?
I do. So ballpark to help with from start to finish with a company like Fry Wagner, around a little over 9,000, and we can use. And I checked on this also. We can use bond and interest funds to help support that for the renovation piece. The teachers, if we were paying, I don't know exactly how many, was it
27.
27 teachers?
Yeah.
Uh,
27.
which would be not committee pay?
9,000.
Yeah, a little over $9,000 in funds, which we could pay starting after July 1, a new budget year. So that would be a benefit. But that's where we're at. We've checked all that out.
Can that come out of capital?
Nope, checked on that. So that would have to come out of general fund or LOB.
So do teachers get paid to set up their classrooms?
But during the
Every
summer,
year?
Not
during the summer.
Not normally.
This would be additional, we're asking them to come in and help set up the classrooms. This would be a special situation.
A lot of times, year over year, if a teacher's not moving, they leave their classroom mostly set up. So things on the walls and those types of things. And we're asking them to take everything down because they're shifting classrooms. So there's.
So then when teachers move grade level, do they get paid?
We don't ask them to come in. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I was
we-
just asking.
No, it's
Yeah.
a special, this is a special request.
Special circumstance, yeah.
I think it would be good to, wherever we think we land with the movers and with the salary, and, I mean, you'd mentioned murals and stuff, probably ought to have one sheet.
Yep, we can do that.
And, you know, cause I'm guessing, you know, like, the murals and stuff that could cost some money.
That's, they're wallpaper. I mean, that's what they are, so they're gonna get painted over. I don't think anybody has any illusions of a new mural unless
No.
unless for some reason we want to spend and do something different, but at this point, I think the plan is just to kinda match the color, paint over the thing that says fourth grade. And
Yeah.
keep it pretty basic, and then
Let's just make sure
Yeah, we can do
whatever it is, there's not surprises.
Yeah.
Shouldn't
And-
be. We've looked at this pretty closely, and so
Yeah,
Shouldn't be
and
any surprises
eventually
with that.
what we would like to do is digital signage in each pod so that they're able to like have the activities that they're doing, playing and welcoming families into, you know, parent night and meet the teacher and those kinds of things, music concerts, all of that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit down the road, but that's something that we would like to do is to kind of bring that up to where we are technology wise.
in
Do
our
we not have the horsepower to move this ourselves?
it would no.
The reason I'm asking is, I was a part of this move. My
Mhm.
class was from the old middle school to this building, and we done it in-house.
Yeah.
And students helped.
So
You know, maybe the football team, the wrestling team.
service.
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Hours.
I think to make the teachers' lives the easiest, we need to outsource this because I mean I'm just saying to try to herd people that aren't trained, it will be a lot of work
Yeah.
to make this happen. And I appreciate the help, the support, but we need people that actually know what they're doing.
Well, I guess I don't understand that because they're boxing up their classroom, they're taking it to the gym, and it's getting moved to another classroom. So as long as they mark those boxes, right? There's not any other. Am I confused on where it's going?
I mean, it's a little bit more than that, but
Yeah.
part of that bid is material, and now granted, we can do that ourselves, but part of what the movie company does is provide you boxes, labels, and does all that. They have, their process is really, they give teachers 30 boxes. The boxes all fit neatly in a specialized cart they have, and so they just load them up, move them, take them to the next spot. You saw it happen here. It's 20 just random laborers. I think the benefit of the moving company is that professional process of them providing packaging, providing labels,
training.
Yeah.
and understanding how to
move
efficiently
things.
move.
And
Yeah.
they're insured.
Yeah, and that is one of, in talking to the teachers, because I brought this to my BLT and I've talked to grade levels and talked to teachers. And, one of the concerns is if it's not a professional company coming in and moving, the possibility of things being damaged. And, a lot of teachers, as we know, invest their own money and own funds into their classrooms. And so that is one of their concerns is the fact that if we don't have professionals handle this, that it could result in things being damaged or broken and go missing and those types of things.
I think it's important that we alleviate the stress, in this whole move because, we're ripping the Band-Aid off on this and it's going to help all teachers know that we're doing the best we can to make this as least cumbersome is what it's going to be.
Right.
It's a big move.
Mitch, it's April, so what things did you plan to do this summer that you will not be able to do because of this?
I'm not sure we had anything if we have to do the move ourselves, there would be.
I didn't mean
Yeah,
that.
there's nothing, we have checked so many large boxes in the last 3 years that there's nothing major that's getting pushed off the table for this. Now, if we try to keep this move in-house, that is, I might as well just move it to the elementary for a couple months, but, so that's that side of it, but there's no major projects that we're kicking down the curb for this. to answer your question.
So the painting and stuff is done by your.
So in the process of, that's kind of how we arrived here, when they move everything to the gym, that'll give us roughly 6 weeks to move cubbies, patch, paint. It's gonna be a considerable amount of painting, but we've had a pretty good crew the last couple summers, be able to handle just our general stuff. And so that part of it, of having the class due to logistics of moving in, out, up, down.
And you feel pretty comfortable that none of those cubby moves get into any mechanical, electrical, plumbing stuff?
This would be all the desks too, though, right? We're not just moving
It's everything.
all the furniture. The moving company would move all the furniture from room to room.
I mean, it's a pretty good stage setup in both gyms on four grade levels. So it's a lot.
We don't use the gyms in the summer then, or
We really don't. And obviously, anything we would use before we won't, so.
So you are gonna do like K1 and 2, instead of leaving 2 up there where they are, they've gotta move over one? Okay.
Yeah, just logistically, when we thought about that, to go kindergarten, then down to the end of the hall for first, and then back for second, just logistically, it didn't make sense just to progress, when we looked at it, to progress K1, 2, and then go down 3, 4, 5.
So we will bring this back. I mean, the whole, tonight we were just presenting it, letting the board know what our plans were, and we'll bring back an organized
And I think, again,
system.
even if there's multiple action items for multiple bids and stuff, I think one sheet that said what's the universal cost for this would be really good.
Yes, that's the plan.
Thank you very much.
That's, yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
All right, Mitch, it sounded like we were still working on bids, but if you have anything you want to share?
No, I really don't. We'll just be short, but since I'm on the agenda, here I am. So, I've gotten one. We've been dealing with 3 companies. One has been slam dunk. They've done a great job. They've got us our stuff. The other one should be here this week. The only thing I wanted to bring to you guys tonight was just understanding they are drilling holes in the roof. They're taking core samples of what our roofing structures are made out of. They're infrared scanning to make sure there's no moisture and things like that in there. So the process is extremely diligent, and I don't feel any need to hurry this along. Like I said, I think the roof project can be done during school hours if it gets kicked to August, if it's kicked after Labor Day. I don't have any major concerns with that. So I think right now we're waiting on at least one more high-level bid, and then for the May board meeting, we will have our recommendation for the roofing manufacturer we want to use, which would probably mean the June board meeting would be when we approved the contract bids through the contractors to actually install the roof, and then get the project started towards the end of the summer, based on, with the availability of the contractor. So like I said, it's May we will bring our recommendation for selection based on criteria. And I've got, they gave me a big binder of information that I can certainly forward to Lauren, and you guys can comb through once we get it from both companies, just to take a look, and then we'll have our recommendation for May, and then go out to bid after the May board meeting for a June approval of the actual contractor who's installing. So that is where we are. New record.
Timeline, yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We serve you whenever you have something for us to approve.
Yeah, I'm asking for some money. Just buckle up.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Witt.
I'm gonna hook up real quick. Forrest told me these Chromebooks don't always play nice when you try to mirror your screen, and so I apologize if this doesn't go smoothly. Did it extend it instead of mirror?
If everybody has, is it coming up? I think everybody has this.
Does everybody have a copy of
Yeah,
the?
yeah. If they want to pull up the
So
agenda, I think they already have. but-
That's one pulling up. I think Forrest just about.
I think we have the form. I don't think we have the latest capacity.
Oh, you're right. It's the form.
Thank you, Forrest.
There we go.
Okay, so really what I wanted to do is talk through this process with you guys very quickly. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. You guys have had it, and so you've seen it. But ultimately, this is actually a form that was provided by Greenbush and KSDE. Ryan had emailed a question about it. I think this is something that we probably adjust next year, but for year one, they kind of recommended that we use their form, which was fine. Ultimately, this turned into a math problem. It turned into just looking at our enrollment, projecting it for next year. We had to set enrollment goals, and then using enrollment goals versus what we project our enrollment to be next year to determine what capacity we would have for non-district students or non-resident students. I'll kind of move quickly here, but you guys can interrupt for questions whenever you would like. 1.1 is simply our current student enrollment. 1.2 was some historical data. I'll be honest, this was difficult for me to put a lot of stock in for us to project for next year. As you can see, we've had COVID within our last 5 years, which kind of throws trends off. It isn't included yet for this year, but we know for 23-24 that we only grew by 1 student as a district, so that kind of bumps that 2% growth trend that we saw from 21-22, 22-23. And so ultimately, I didn't feel comfortable really projecting based off of percentage growth when we were looking at potential enrollment for next year. Table 1.3, those are our enrollment goals by grade level. Myself, Casey, Calesta, Tanya, we sat down and projected these numbers based on simply teachers that we have hired, that we have on staff, and what we want in each classroom, how many students we want in each classroom. So that's table 1.3. Table 1.4, table 1.5 get into some special programs, which again at this point in time we didn't feel like limited what we wanted beyond the projected enrollment or our current enrollment. So that brings us to table 1.6, which is our enrollment projection for next year, which at this point in time really is just our current enrollment, just every class rolled up a year. And then the kindergarten number is based off of not so much pre-K now, but what Calesta has taken in with the form that she's sent out for families requesting for their child to be enrolled in kindergarten for next year and attend kindergarten roundup. And so, as I said, this really turned into a math problem. What we have is our district enrollment goals, what we feel like is the best level for us to be at for our buildings to operate at their best in terms of enrollment and our ability to educate. So that's table 1.3. We go down to table 1.6, where we project ourselves to be next year based off this year's enrollment. And then when you look at table 1.7, the difference per grade level creates our capacity that we would publish and allow non-resident students to apply and fill those spots.
We have to do that by grade level? It's not
Yeah.
a total number, first come, first serve?
It is by grade level.
So again, just you and I talked about this a little bit, Cody, but just to make sure, so the capacity the projection 1.6 is simply this year's data. We did not put an uplift on that.
We did no uplift on that.
Correct.
Just based on historical. That's what I was saying earlier. I just didn't feel comfortable.
Understand.
Yeah.
Just making sure we're all clear.
Yeah.
And then on the optimal capacity, whatever table was 1.3 or something.
Yes.
That's basically built on student teacher ratios and the like.
Yes. That it's really 100% built on student to teacher ratio, and then it's been that building administrator, the number they feel comfortable with, to provide again the classroom environment we want.
Can you remind me of a couple things? So once they're a student here,
Yes.
are they automatically, as long as they're a student, good standing, automatically a student forever
Yes.
until they graduate?
Yes.
Does that also then grandfather any siblings? So say we have somebody where the 7th grade, they've got a 7th grader and a 2nd grader, but they've got a pre-K kid coming in, and maybe we're at 0
Right.
for kindergarten. Do they still automatically get to attend even if we were saying we're accepting 0, but they have siblings that are in grade levels that we are accepting?
So that's I want to be upfront with how I answer that. What our policy states and what the policy that really it was mostly written by KSDE would say that those students would get priority in enrollment. So if you have siblings that are already attending and you're a family that's a non-resident, those younger siblings would get priority in attending. Now, whether you take that as far as to say, well, we don't have capacity, do we have to accept that younger sibling? Or because we don't have capacity, even though you have older siblings that go here, we can say, no, you don't get to attend here because we don't have capacity. To be honest with you, that's probably just gonna have to play out over the next couple years before either a court, because a school district gets sued, or someone makes a determination on how you're gonna interpret that law. Now, I would like to think, again, depending on circumstances and how large a class may be, a grade level, if we've got a family that's a good family and their kids are in good standing, I would like to think at most buildings we would probably say, yes, we can take one more. You've been a great family. Your older siblings have been, great members of our school. So
What if you have a family that has one of the family members is not a student in good standing, but the other ones are? Does that become a family that's not in good standing, or does that just become one student that's not in good standing and they can no longer attend?
that would be on, the way I would read it is that would just be that student that is not in good standing. If, again, it's determined that the other siblings are in good standing, at that point it'd be up to the family what they want to do. But there is a possibility that, let's say, one building has one kid of the siblings, and they say that kid is not in good standing anymore and has to go back to their resident school district. We would be able to tell that one student, you cannot go, attend here any longer. The family then at that point in time would have to decide if they're going to allow their other kids to remain here, or if as a family they're all going to go back to a home district. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
So we can go over the limit? I mean, you said that if the family had somebody, we would,
Well,
I'm not trying to put words
right,
in your
yeah.
mouth. I don't know.
That makes that our decision, whether we take someone over capacity. We wouldn't be forced to.
So, well, it's a complicated question.
Fair.
That is honestly probably going to end up in a court at some point in time. If we have zero capacity and at a grade level, then we should not be able to accept any out-of-district students. Now, again, it goes back to if they have older siblings, does that policy that KSD has put out, is that interpreted as their younger sibling can attend no matter what? Or do we have to say no to them because we are at capacity? Now, I believe the way the policy is written, they can attend no matter what. But anyone else, if they don't have older siblings that have already been kind of grandfathered their family into our building or into our school district, we would not be able to accept. Now, this is simply non-resident students that are applying to attend here. Now, if we have families move in that would put us in, let's say we have a family that has triplets in third grade. Well, if they move in, they get to attend school here, whether we're, at capacity or not. And so that we just have to make work, but we're saying we don't, or the policy states that we don't have to accept you if we're at capacity at a grade level if you're non-resident.
And they do have to apply, correct? That they
Yes.
don't, and we will check to see that they're a student in good standing, or
So
does that matter?
That is still up in the air. As of right now, the way the policy is written, if they apply and we have capacity, we have to accept them, no matter what.
So it doesn't matter if they're a student in good standing at their last school, we have to accept them out. no
Correct.
matter what.
Now, there is an update to this that I believe a committee has looked at, and I don't know if they've presented it to the House yet, if it's an official House bill. It is, but they are looking to add language that would allow school districts to deny you, even if you have capacity, if you are not in good standing in your prior school district. So that has been floated around. I don't believe it has been officially voted in yet. So that has been floated, but isn't a done deal yet.
It's in committee. It's not. I don't even think
Yeah.
it's been voted on.
Okay,
last
yeah.
time I looked,
So we would have to accept you if you are at the end of that school year not in good standing. So we kind of have to take you for a year and give you a shot. If you're not in good standing by the end of that school year, then by June 1st, we have to let you know if we're not letting you come back.
And what is the proof that you have to provide to say that they're not in good standing?
So it's actually in the policy that we approved earlier in December's JBCC.
But,
One of them is 96% attendance rate. If you fall below that, which is the truancy rate, essentially the state truancy rate. So that is one of them. There is, if you get OSS, that's one of them. Actually, I think it breaks it down to just multiple discipline referrals is one of them. Sorry, I don't have it memorized off the top of my list. But there is a list within our policy that says, I don't think we're limited to it, but it does show a list of examples of what would cause a student to be not in good standing anymore.
So in our conversation, Cody, just to recap a bit for everybody, early on when we discussed this, there was some conversation of do we want to show capacity? Do we not want to show
Right.
capacity? And I think as this has evolved, it's turned into, you said it, a math problem.
Yep.
And unless we have ways to justify a different math problem, some of this isn't terribly negotiable based on our conversation, based on my read.
Yeah.
Did I misspeak on any of that?
No, that's accurate. I mean, what we have a little bit of control in is, did I scroll past it? What we have a little bit of control in, there we go, table 1.3. We have a little bit of control in our district enrollment goals. And so that is something that we do have a little bit of control over, how conservative or liberal we want to be in that. And so that is really what we have control in. I feel like we put numbers out for each grade level and where we're at currently as a district with the staffing we have that are reasonable. They're not too conservative, they're not too high. It allows us to still take in some students if students want to come here in areas that we have capacity, but we're not going to end up flooding a grade level where we're going to have 23 kindergartners in every classroom or something like that. And so that's what we have control over is table 1.3. After that, we're just comparing that to our projected enrollment for next year, and that gives us our capacity.
One last question. So
Yeah.
the demographic study that we looked at the other day, it showed the number of non-resident students, and I can't recall what that number was right offhand, but are we equivalent to that? So
It was around 130.
I was gonna say 146 for
Yeah,
some
so
reason.
it was close
Okay.
to that.
Six that. So is that what our numbers don't look like? So are we gonna be telling a lot of non-resident, like, it seems like we've been taking a lot of them and now
Right.
our numbers look different than the number that
So, which if you look at, I guess 146 spread over the school district, so you're looking at around, 13 per grade level roughly. And so
7%, something like that.
yeah, and so there's certainly grade levels. If we go back and look at capacity, there's certainly some grade levels that reflect that larger number. There's some that don't. I do think there's a possibility this year that we lose out on an opportunity or two to gain a family. That's certainly a possibility because of, we have to pick a number and stick to it.
But the current enrollment would include those 146 today.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry if I misheard your question. Yeah.
So
No.
table 1.6 would include that. So
Yeah.
if we had next year's kindergartners, for example, there may be some additional non-resident
Yeah.
at those earlier grades.
Correct. And there's still I'm still curious. I'm going to talk with Becky Nasal Road this week. We need to develop just some communication to put out to our community so they understand what's happening and what's coming up. One question I've been asked already is about students that are out of district, that are in our district currently. Are they going to have to go through this process? And the answer is no. And once a family is in, they do not have to go through this process again. So we need to communicate some of that. There's also, again, this being the first time that we go through this as a state, it'll be interesting to see, I'm not sure how many families are going to realize that this process is taking place across the state. I'm not just talking about around here that we put it out for. I think we're still going to have a lot of families that show up in August just wanting to enroll, even though they don't live in our district, and that's for everybody, not understanding that in June was really the application time for that. Now, if we get through June, we don't go over our capacity anywhere, then my interpretation of this would be we can still accept people in August if you just walk in the doors for enrollment. That'll be a different story if we are at capacity or over. That'll change that. But
And at that point, the capacity decision is based on the way we've historically done things, not this new model.
that's a good question. I'm sure there'll be some conversation this summer going into next year of, can I deny somebody? So now part of me would
You
say,
can't
if you
deny
didn't follow
somebody.
our process,
Yeah.
if you didn't follow our process and you didn't apply to be here in June, In August, I would think I could gain back some control to say, well, let's see if you're a student that was in good standing at your prior district or not. Now, that's just me wanting that ability as a building.
No, I get it.
We have to
leader,
accept this tonight, the limits, right?
So tonight, you guys do need to, you will vote to approve the enrollment projections, table 1.6, and our enrollment capacity 1.7, because we have to post that May 1st.
I mean, the whole deal puts us in a bad spot, because you don't want to stop growth, because that in the head counts.
Right.
But we don't want to take on somebody else's problem either, so a small number.
I think our attitude, Cody and I have talked quite a bit about this, is to keep it low and see how this plays out, because we have no idea what this is going to look like in June. And I don't think anybody across the state does. And so we were already, I mean, honestly, we were already managing this internally. All school districts were.
Right.
You know, some school districts don't have any. I mean, Bonner hasn't taken students for years.
Yeah.
Baser's running out of room. We all know that. And so if you go down to Eudora, they'll take as many as they can get. So it's just a different attitude. And so we just need to see how this plays out. I know there'll be adjustments
Yep.
made the following year. We know that. And it might tie in with growth that we might have through, as we saw in demographic study, our numbers looks like over the next 5 years could, increase. So we have to make adjustments.
Yep.
Well, I would think if you could confirm their good standing in advance, then you could have a bigger window to accept some people. But if you can't do that,
Right.
we don't need other people's problems.
Well, I think
One-
I
One-
think some
one
of
thing-
those are going to be glaring things that either get resolved by the legislature or the courts, though, because those questions will come up sooner than later.
You know, one of the board members stated it, and we've talked about this. We feel it's very important that if you come to Tonganoxie, you live here and be part of our community, and that's our attitude
Yeah.
about
That's
all this. And so
a big part of it.
it needs to be a big part of it.
Yeah.
We want you to be part of the community and not just drive in from.
Yeah.
Well, the
Wherever.
taxpayers are paying for
Absolutely.
their children
Yep.
to go here, and
Yes, yeah, property taxes. Yeah.
Yep. And it's not that we don't have great families that don't live here and have just chosen to get their kids here, but yeah, I think that's a plus in this, is that it might encourage some families to move here. So,
You know, Cody, we appreciate all the background work you've done on this, because this has been going on since.
September, roughly.
And you've really you've led the district through this whole process at all levels, and led the board through this too. And really, we're getting right to the point now where tonight we're approving this for the May 1.
Yeah.
We got to get it on our website.
Right. And just a reminder of what it looks like from here. It'll be you guys will vote tonight if you want to approve the projections and the enrollment capacity. Then May 1st, we will publish the enrollment capacity. Starting June 1st, then will be the enrollment period, the application period, from June 1st to June 30th. And so non-resident families will have that opportunity to apply for their children to enroll here. If we're under capacity at a grade level, like I'm just looking at 7th grade right now, it's got 11 up there. If we're under that, then everybody gets in. Every 7th grader that applied to be here would get in no matter what. If we're under it, if we go over that, that is when a kind of a blind lottery goes in, and it's whatever 11 7th graders get drawn will be the ones that get in. So that's kind of what we have ahead of us. We would have to notify families. July 15th, I believe, is the date. So we have about 2 weeks there, the first 15 days of July, to notify families as to whether or not their students would be enrolled for the following or upcoming year or not.
so it's not a first come first serve. It is a lottery system. That
If you go over capacity, it is a lottery system. If you're under capacity, then everybody gets in. But yeah, no, it's not first come first serve. It's everybody has the month of June to apply. So
And how many non-resident students do we have now? Any idea?
146 that we said.
That's
I'll be honest,
what-
I didn't
that's what
remember that
sticks
number off
in
the top
my
of my
mind.
head.
It was
but-
around 140. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Students now?
yeah.
Really? That
And it
seems
broke
high.
it down into the districts that it was like McLeod, Baser, KCK,
Yeah.
mostly.
Yeah, we do. We and I honestly, I haven't broken it down, so I don't know, but I would say we're probably at a higher percentage in the high school than at the younger two buildings. I mean, we have families that choose to send their kids here to high school, and they come in as freshmen and want to enroll.
And programs probably
Yes.
Yeah.
facilitate some of that, I would guess.
Yes,
but-
yeah, that's a good point.
And families. We've had families over generations who've either lived here and now they just live outside the borders and they
Yeah.
want to continue sending
Yeah.
their children.
Yeah. So it is it's a process that I'm not sure really helps us as a school district, but this is what we have to do now. So
Are you the one that's going to be managing? You had those different timelines that you laid out through the summer. Is that going to fall on your shoulders, or?
yes and no. I mean, I've kind of taken it on and helped out, but I mean, ultimately, it's not a lot to do, honestly. I mean, it's laid out for us by KSDE. We just have to put this together. You guys have to vote on it, and we put the numbers out. The application, we haven't yet really discussed how we want those to come in. That might just be a Google form potentially that will be pretty seamless, but and easy to collect. But so.
We're getting a lot of support on this through Greenbush.
Yeah.
Chad Higgins from down at ESDAC.
Yeah.
Every month, every Thursday morning, we get an update, statewide. It's a lot of questions, and we're in a much better position, with, I think, having Cody, take this by the horns, and just the support you've had. I don't know how many phone calls you've had with Chad Higgins, or they're trying to help us out here.
And the whole state, everybody's just trying to figure it out this first time through. But it's, as we work through it and started plugging the numbers in,
again.
Huh?
And it falls on groups of volunteers again across the state of Kansas.
Yep.
Just like COVID.
That's the gift that keeps on giving for you guys.
That's right.
Your volunteer service here.
Uh-huh.
But it's appreciated. So, anyways, any questions for you guys? It is, it's, to be honest, it's, unless you guys want to come back and talk about this again more at a special board meeting, it's pretty much here to approve tonight. And then, like I said, that gives us what to work with, what we'll publish on May 1st, and be ready for the application process this summer. So,
Yeah, we appreciate it, Cody.
yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cody.
Have a good night.
Mr. Forrest.
Forrest.
I'll do a little preliminary for Forrest here. He, this conversation about a pretty significant, two significant projects have been discussed at a very high level, by Forrest, primarily with Tanya. They've been working together on this, but then, I was introduced to this just a few weeks ago. I know that there was been discussion about the sound system in the middle school previously by other board members. We've had those discussions, but this is really just letting everybody know that this is a pretty two major projects that will probably fall under our capital outlay discussion that we're going to have on April 22nd. And so that's why we wanted to introduce it here, let you guys know what there's the potential cost for, because there's no action item tonight. This is more information for all of you. So I'll let that help for us, kind of get you started?
Yeah, thanks.
All right.
And I will have more of a packet for you at the special board meeting near the end of this month that breaks down all the quotes, and I use a special rubric for evaluating each of the vendors and the product. So, and I'll share that with everybody, and then I'll share my recommendation also. So summer is a super busy time for us. A lot of preventative maintenance is going on. We clean all our switch rooms. We've got a couple switch rooms that we need to rewire this summer. We'll do that then too. We blow out all the switches. We blow out all the projectors that we have in all the buildings also. Chromebook refresh. As long as we don't have any drastic numbers change by the end of the year, I'm estimating that I'll probably be ordering about 470 Chromebooks for our summer refresh. And if you guys remember, we inject new Chromebooks every year at 1st grade, 5th grade, and 9th grade. And then it follows that student for the next 4 years. And I plan on sticking with the Dell 3110s. It's a 2-in-1, so it folds into a tablet. We've had really good luck with them. You know, they have Gorilla Glass. We have a lot fewer breakage with these devices than we've had with the older Asus or Acers. That, you know, 'cause when Chromebooks first started coming out, they were fairly flimsy because, you know, they were trying to make them as cheap as possible. So the costs do increase a little bit, but we really get the Dells for a pretty good price. I get them right around 300, sometimes a little under 300. The high school ones, we do order a beefier Chromebook. So the high school Chromebooks come with more memory. Instead of 4 gigs, they have 8. Instead of 32 gigs of storage, they have 64 gigs of storage. We just wanted the high schoolers to have a little beefier Chromebook to work with. We have a new resource management system that we've been working on this year. And it's actually part of, you know, last year we introduced a new ticketing system for maintenance and technology. And it also came with a resource management system that we've been working on this year. And we've been using it in limited capacity to work out all the bugs. And then we hope to this summer just be able to unveil it. And what it allows people to do is they can just go into the help ticket system, and now there's an event button. They can click on it and reserve. We'll use it to reserve and track, you know, who's using which rooms. We put all the rooms in there, all the PD rooms, any room or gym that would need to be reserved. And we set like the days of the week that it can be checked. You know, somebody can reserve it, the time. So when the person comes in there, they're asked some questions at first, like what day do you want, what time, and then it filters it, and it shows the person only the rooms that are available for that time and capacity. I think it'll also help with some communication issues, because it also is set up where it may ask you, hey, do you need Wi-Fi or a projector or something like that? And if you do, like maybe you do need Wi-Fi and you check that box, when you submit it, well, first it goes to secretaries and administrators for approval. And then once it is approved, if I put down that I needed Wi-Fi, it sends the tech department an email saying, hey, they need Wi-Fi at this time in this room, on this date. And then we can do that. It also can keep track of, like, if you put in how many chairs or tables you need, it also will shoot an email to the head of maintenance or head custodian of that building and let them know what they need to do to set up. So we're excited about it. It also keeps a calendar which we can share with even publicly if we needed to, and you can look on it and see what rooms are being reserved and where. We haven't played around with it too much, but it does have a fee management piece built into it. So if we have outside organizations coming in, if they go in to reserve a room, you know, they might be asked to pay a fee, and the system would track that for us. We're going to be upgrading and replacing the THS Technology Lab with new desktops. And I called it the Technology Lab just because I can't call it the CAD Lab anymore, but it is in essence the CAD Lab. And Mr. Falgren will be teaching his technology classes in there next year. So those computers are going on 6 years old, so we'll be refreshing those. And if they do have somebody teaching CAD, they can be utilized for that also. At summertime is a lot of house cleaning in our software programs. ClassLink and Roster Server handle most of the programs for the district, providing them on the launch pad for teachers to log in. It also rosters all of our programs. It pulls data out of Skyward and creates classes. And we just have kind of maintenance tasks with that in the summertime. We have to close out the year for the program and then set up the new year on each of our programs. Okay, so we moved the copy center over here this year, and then it falls under the technology umbrella We've had really good success with it being over here. I feel like it serves. You know, it was always at the elementary school. I thought it did a great job of serving the elementary school, but with Tony running it here, which he's done a fantastic job, I feel like it services even more, does a better job of servicing the whole district. We plan on even moving some things over this coming summer from the elementary school to kind of add to his plate a little bit. He's going to have new laminators, some printers, so he can do bigger posters, laminate bigger projects. We're even setting out bookbinding. He'll do all the bookbinding and everything over here. And then we've been pushing, well, not pushing, but we've been really encouraging teachers to, make sure they send their stuff to the copy center if they need copies made. So end of June is usually, this is Skyward house cleaning. Near the end of June, and it's a very small window, I close out the year, and then I roll over to the new school year. And then as soon as that's done, I'm setting up online enrollment. And there's about a 2-week window to get all that stuff done in. And then that way, early July, we can have online enrollment online. SkyAlert. We've used SkyAlert for years as a mass communication tool. Well, we're switching over to, it used to be called ClassTag. You probably have heard that term. But now it's called School Status Connect. It got bought out a couple months ago. We'll be using that for all the district communication. We've kind of been, throughout this whole year, phasing out SkyAlert. We very rarely even send a SkyAlert out anymore. It's all School Status Connect. That actually, when that's closed out this year, or this summer, that'll actually be going into next year as $6,000 savings for the district. Implementing a new web filter. So we currently use GoGuardian Web Filter for the district. I'm looking at a web filter by a company called Blocksy. I really like it. We're demoing it for the rest of the school year. We've had it for a couple weeks now. We've been using it at 8th grade and at 4th grade in the elementary school. We chose 8th grade because if you can control 8th grade students on a Chromebook with web filter, the rest of the district's pretty easy. I don't know if anybody's got an 8th grader in here, but it also comes with as part of the package, it comes with something called it's a teacher Chromebook monitoring system. Right now we have something called GoGuardian Teacher that teachers use in the classroom. It allows them to see what their students are doing on their Chromebooks. It allows them to close tabs, communicate with the student, filter they can block extra things that they don't want the students going to. Well, Blocksy has something very similar, but it actually has a couple extra features that GoGuardian doesn't have that are really nice, and teachers are loving it so far. Everything goes well. I'll look to fully roll over the district this summer to it. And that actually, because GoGuardian's been raising its prices every year, it'll actually end up being almost a $14,000 savings for the district by switching. And I actually think, more importantly, I actually think it does a better job. I won't talk about this too much. I just wanted you guys to know, I don't have too many ballpark pricings on the intercom system. I am still working on the bids for the intercom system. I'll have more information probably at the May meeting. And upgrading and replacing the Promethean boards and projectors at TES. Okay. After listening to all that, I was like, okay, well, it sounds like there's already a lot going on at TES this year or this summer. But I would like to phase out, and it's something we've been asked for the last couple of years from teachers there. Currently they use a Promethean board, which is basically a board that the projector projects onto, right? They're wearing out, and to be honest, they've got to be at least 12 years old. they came over, I mean, I can't even tell you when they were bought. It was before I was even here. And they came over from the old elementary school when we built the new one. So they've been here for quite a while. It's hard to get parts for them anymore. The pens are starting to just break and not work anymore, obviously, after 12 years. And if you can find them, they're super expensive to buy. The projectors are getting near end of life. If you've ever gone in a classroom at the elementary school when they're using a projector, I swear you almost have to have all the lights turned off in the room to see the image. They're really starting to, lose their power, and it doesn't really help to change bulbs on them either at that point. At that point, you just have to replace the projector. Some other things that this will solve, and probably two things. Not sure exactly why they did this, but when they built the elementary school, they put in the Promethean boards, but all the wiring for the Promethean boards comes out of a box below the Promethean board and then kind of hangs there and runs up behind the Promethean board. Same way with the power outlet. My idea we have things get unplugged all the time or tripped over. My idea with replacing with the interactive TVs is we would actually do some rewiring of the room and move the boxes up behind the TV where they should be, out of the way. And then we don't have to worry about kids tripping on them or things being unplugged. Another big thing that would help with, at the elementary school, if you're unlucky enough to have a room on the bottom floor, if the class above you is walking around, your projector shakes. So if you're trying to show a video or you've got a presentation up there, you're going to get this. And we hear it all the time from the teachers in the lower levels. There's not much that can be done about it. And that's one reason I wanted an interactive display, right? It's mounted to the front wall. They can jump around up there as much as they want. It's not going to affect that image. I did kind of choose interactive TVs instead of a projector like we did at the high school, because my big thing with the new high school was, we've got the nice short throw interactive projectors that project like a 100-inch image, I think it is. My big push with those projectors was I didn't want to take up whiteboard space. Right? As a teacher, whiteboard space is so valuable, I feel like. So that's one reason I didn't want to do that at the elementary school, because the elementary school actually has a place carved out on the wall to have some sort of a display or a board up there. So we're going to utilize that, move all the cabling up. We've actually got a couple too, if you're ever in the elementary school, we've got one in Ellie's room in 5th grade, and one in Amy Olson's room in 4th grade. She's got one that we've installed and they've been using for the last few weeks. They were really kind of our two favorite ones, because I've looked at probably 7-8 different vendors. And one thing that when I went into the process, I keep a rubric so I can rate everything. And some of the things that I looked for with the interactive displays was, I really wanted something that didn't have an ongoing cost. That kind of stuff drives me crazy. You buy something and then the next thing you know, you're paying for the software for it every year just to keep it current. And actually the two that we narrowed it down to don't have ongoing costs. I also didn't really want ones with fancy pens. I didn't want that to be a cost of I was going to have to keep buying those over the years. The two boards we picked out, we've got one in there from a company called New Line in Texas. And they're literally, the pens are nothing but a piece of plastic, basically. We could print them on a 3D printer if we wanted to. There's no electronics in it. It's great. Another thing was, they didn't have any ongoing costs. Training, they provide free training. They would come up every year from Texas and do a presentation for us. Some of the companies wanted to charge for that. New Line doesn't. So that's one thing that kind of made them top of my list, was I could schedule one of their trainers every year at the beginning of the year to come up and retrain teachers and new teachers on how to use the boards, and it wouldn't cost us anything extra. I looked for, most of them had warranties of around 5 years, but like New Line, another reason they're kind of at the top for me is they came back and they said they'll do a 7-year warranty on all their displays. So I've got some ballpark figures. Like I said, I'm actually, one of the TVs that I really like, I'm still waiting on a quote back from him. But ballpark, it will be just shy of 200,000 to do the project, around between 196 and 198. That's replacing 85 displays. It'll also be filling up, one thing when they built the elementary school, they didn't always, they left some rooms just completely empty. You know, they didn't have a class in them at the moment, so they didn't put anything in there. But now now they're filling up, and now it's my responsibility to get something in there, right? So we would fill up all the rooms because they're basically all being used pretty close. There's about $400. I've been working with Wire Nuts here in town, who I've worked with on a lot of different projects, because I needed some install quotes and costs, so I would know how much it was going to be. And it was about $400 a room. That's to install the TV and replace the wiring because it's VGA cabling. It needs to be switched to HDMI and USB, and that's moving everything up behind the screens too. It's about a 5-week job. If it does get approved, it'll be a challenge, but maybe if they're taking everything out of the rooms, maybe that's the perfect time to do it. I did have one more thing. So for you guys tonight, for me, I've got something on the consent agenda. It's something we've done for the last 2 years, and that's when our seniors graduating, since their devices are going to be decommissioned and recycled, we opted the last 2 years to give them the opportunity to take it with them if they wanted to. First year we did that, I was a little apprehensive because I'm like, is anybody going to even want to take it? I mean, we found that probably at least 80% of the students wanted to take it with them. A lot of them were like, oh yeah, that's great. I don't have a computer at home. At least now I've got something I can check my email. And so I was pleasantly surprised. The last 2 years we've had high numbers of students that do take the Chromebooks with them. I'm looking for your approval to do that again this year. So, you guys have any questions for me? Sorry, I didn't mean to talk so long.
I think that, giving those seniors that option has been a really positive, for the students and the parents. They really appreciate it because we don't have any plans for them.
No, they're going to be recycled.
Yeah.
We do put in there that we do want the students' accounts with the district to be in good standings. But yeah, they would be recycled this summer.
Is there there's no value?
Not really. No. Believe me, especially that model, they've got ASUS 204s, especially after 4 years of a $250 device. Believe me, they're pretty worn out. Yeah. I figure if we're paying that price for them and we get 4 years out of them, that's a pretty good deal. Because I think back we used to have carts full of computers that were probably $1,200, $1,500 a piece. So yeah.
I think it's a good message. Okay.
Nothing I can talk about anything.
No, I know you can. Thank you, Forrest.
Thanks,
Forrest.
Good job.
All right. So, moving into the consent agenda, a couple quick things. So we took item 2.7 and moved it to the action item list. Additionally, just so everybody knows, I've been having conversations with Lauren and Audra. Historically, we've added things to the consent agenda late, and there's business reasons for it, right? So we need to get our vendors paid, pay bills and the like. It kind of puts us in a bit of a bad spot if we don't have the time to look at the consent agenda again the day of. So what I've asked them to do, at least in the interim, unless we decide to do something else, is once the consent agenda is published, that any additions that need to be made for good business reason get put on the regular action item list, just so it kind of calls out any late ads and we don't rubber stamp anything on the consent agenda. So that's what I've asked to do. Obviously, we'll still look at everything, but that's kind of what I've asked to do in the interim. So I don't know if there's any feedback there, but.
I
So-
like that, just because, you know, you never know what day people are gonna review stuff.
Yep. So I guess with that, I would move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 2.7. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, doesn't look like we have any patron comments, Audra. Okay. Mr. Feldkamp.
Okay, I'll move through mine. As far as the capital outlay planning session, we have established that for April 22nd at 6 o'clock. I think we were talking about going in the new conference room just because it's a little bit better working area over in here. It's in a kind of a square, or U, I guess. So that's where that will be. And then I'll work with Justin to kind of come up with an agenda on how we want to, work through prioritizing or discussing, some of those options. I'm also inviting at least the 3 lead principals, Forrest, Mitch, probably Becky, Nasal Road, will all be there. So it'll be more than just the board involved in that. Demographic review, we were pleased. Number one, with the turnout, we were pleased with the participation. I think it was good to see the variety of people that were, involved, who came to provide their feedback. So I think overall, it was a very good evening. RSP moved through it, I think, in a good pace, so it didn't draw it out for a long evening for everybody, but it was a lot of research, a lot of demographic science, and I don't know if you guys have any input on that, but any feedback from you in particular?
It was a good session.
Yeah, I think I had good feedback from people that attended. I received some emails that they appreciated the opportunity, from the community.
It
Did we
would have
look-
been nice if he had a microphone because it was
I
very
thought about
hard
that.
to
We
hear.
do.
You gotta
I
go
don't
about
just.
that halfway
voice.
through, when we have mics, but
Mm-hmm.
my fear was if I get up and disrupt the presentation, try to get the mic working, that would drag it out too long. So we'll be prepared with a mic next time.
I wondered.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
those on
sitting
the
toward
back
Yeah,
were
I
really
did.
having a hard time.
Yes.
Because he didn't always project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he dropped his voice
Yep.
at the end of his sentence. And
Yep, he sure did.
He did a good job, but it
Yes.
just was hard to
Yes.
hear.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there any time spent like on looking back at the prior study we did and kind of where
We
what
could.
that projected
I
out at
mean,
and
we could
I
do.
mean, I read the new slides because
He
I
didn't
didn't really.
go through that though.
Mm.
No, he did not.
Mm.
It might
I
be
mean,
worth
I think it
reviewing.
was projected flat. It wasn't much different than this
Yeah.
one. I don't think.
It was a decline.
Was it a decline last?
Yeah. No, this one showed growth. The first one didn't.
The last one showed a decline.
Yeah. SRO contract, well, this has been a challenge. I have been in a lot of conversations with our lawyer from KSB, Laura Cope, and with Greg Lawson, who's been trying to push this along. We still don't have the final draft. It's been quite a while, and so it's just kind of, Audra's been talking to him, we've been talking to him. I think we're close. There's just some language that they're just trying to agree on. So we received another email, I think today. They're just going to keep pushing to try to get this finalized as soon as possible. Negotiations, we did share our letter of intent to negotiate with the board on March 29th. We met with TEA officials, and we have theirs. One thing I will do is and I haven't done that yet, is I'll look through that again, scan it, and send that out to the board, for your review, because I haven't done that yet. Year-end budget projections. I think my point is, we did another deep dive, but ever since we started in December, there's been a real consistency in what we're looking at for year-end projections. So we'll do another one probably in early May before we close out in June. I don't anticipate any changes. One thing we do know, I mean, we've heard this many times, is we're spending down cash balances, and primarily several different factors, but that is what we're dealing with. And it's been going on for the last 3 years at least. Did have a kind of a Friday morning tour of the Hills manufacturing plant. And that was, I had never been inside the doors, and the HR, I think Noelle was the community relations person, gave me a quick tour. Very impressive. Has anybody else had a chance to go through it? They're not giving tours yet. I mean, so that was part of it. They're not giving big tours. They're not ready for that. But I enjoyed that hour. It was good. We worked on budget development, or I'm calling it the budget workshop. If you got an invite from that, and we can have 4, otherwise it becomes a special board meeting. But Randy Corns, talked to him today. Going to try to clue in Dustin Avey from Piper Sandler, and we're going to try to do that April 29th at 9, but that time is flexible. If that is not a good time, we can move that around somewhat. So if you have high interest, let me know. Okay? THS graduation, believe it or not. This is this is the meeting. Our next meeting we'll already have graduation graduation's on the 11th. Our next board meeting's on the 13th. So let Cody know if you are planning to be there, just for chairs and that logistics that you guys all handing at this. For the new guys, you get to pick 30 graduates, and the board members make those determinations on who they want to hand out diplomas to. So there you are. And he'll tell you more about the time to be there and where to arrive.
Let's get with Cody and get that list of graduates in advance. It seems like we're always
You're scrambling.
Trying to find a pin the day of.
Yeah.
Let's get ahead of that.
We'll have that all ready. But anyway, that is on the 11th, and away we go. Just legislative session. I mean, I just want to kind of bring this up. Every day is a new experience with legislative updates. Some things are coming out of committee, some things have not passed. They pass the House, they don't pass the Senate, so it gets sent back to committee, and there's a lot of rewrite going on. We don't exactly know where we're at with all of the educational funding at this point. There's some talk about putting additional $77 million into special education. We are well over $700 million short of meeting the 92% mandated funding, and that number is just ever increasing. And so the 77 really is a small Band-Aid on SPED funding. We have a lot of work to do. There's some talk about having a 4 or 5 year plan out there, but there's just a lot of work going on with that. So anyway, that's really all I have about, there's nothing final. I mean, right now, earth shattering. It just keeps coming in waves. And I get legislative updates from KSSA, KSDE, Kansas School, KASB on almost daily basis. So there you are. Thank you. Any questions?
Tanya?
All right. We are still in the midst of state assessments. That window for state assessments is closing on April 19th, which is a little sooner than it normally closes, so we have fewer weeks to test. That is because our virtual students who are going through a virtual school, have a special window that opens right after that so that they can test virtually. And in order to test virtually, they would have had to let us know prior to January. So we had a January 12th deadline of uploading if they were going to test virtually. And that is done through the virtual school. So it's not just them testing at home. There's a lot of hoops that they have to jump through. So our window here in the brick and mortar schools closes April 19th. And then once the virtual window closes after that, we will have scores. So hopefully right before school gets out, we will have all of our scores. Number 2, strategic planning updates. So you've seen the latest draft. What we're doing now is we're working on making it pretty, making it a visually pleasing format for you. We also have a goal worksheet that takes all of those big areas and breaks them down into individual pieces. So we're working through that. We have a run through again with that on Wednesday. We should have everything back to have you look at the final draft for approval in May or June. I may have a draft to you earlier in May so that you can look at it prior. Then hopefully we'll have our final product for publishing in the June, July range, and then ready for distribution once the school year starts. So we'll roll that out and we'll start the school year with our new plan. The whole, the strategic plan that you've looked through, the draft that you've looked through earlier has not changed. We're just updating with some different things and with the goal sheet. And we're working toward that website as well. All right, you have two things on the agenda tonight for approval. One is the math adoption. We have gone through our process. That is on your next page in my report, page 2. So we are looking at Eureka 2 for elementary K-5, and then secondary 6-12, big ideas math for algebra, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, and calculus. College algebra is through SAVIS, and then scaffolded math has the consumer math personal finance piece. And the total for the adoption is there. The process then is on your next page. So we looked at several different companies. We did a pilot with 3rd grade with Bridges. We were only able to secure 1 grade level, which was a bit frustrating. It's a new program, and they only secured enough to send 3rd grade for demos. So we looked at all of the other companies and then did the pilot with Bridges. And we've gone through several surveys, we've had several meetings and professional development sessions. You can read the process through there, and this is what we've come up with for approval tonight. Then on the calendar adoption, you'll see that I've attached the surveys that we sent out. We sent out the first survey there says at the top, Tonganoxie USD 464 early release Wednesdays plan. That was the survey that went to parents. So they just had one choice of a yes, no preference, or no, and then they had the opportunity to leave comments. And all of the comments there are included in this document. And then you'll see the next survey, which, freezing up here, starts on
I got it on
page 14. There it is. And that is the survey that was sent to all staff members. That included teachers and our classified staff members. We do have some comments in there that came from paraprofessionals who are concerned about decrease in hours, but that's not accurate. They would still be working their 40 hours or whatever their hours per week, so they would not be losing time or any pay for that. And we're going through those comments and comments from the parents and from the staff members on how we can address those when we roll out the program, if that's approved tonight. Any questions?
So let's move into action items, because I think that several of Tanya's things are right on the action item list. So action item 5.1, approval of the 24-25 calendar. Remember, as a board, we are approving the 24-25 calendar, but it does include the early release plan in those days. So I would open the floor to comments.
I think it would be nice if there was maybe a little bit of a discussion about the benefits to families to allow the teachers to have, I guess, that collaboration time.
So with the public?
Yeah, just so, I think so people are aware of what I struggle a little bit because I think an hour is not enough. So I wish there was more time for them to have maybe, but maybe what are the benefits for their children by the teachers being able to have additional time to collaborate?
Yes, and we shared that with you all, what was that, a month ago or 2 months ago? We do have plans for publicity that goes out to parents as well. We had planned to, you know, all the information to be sent out and developed and shared with parents.
I mean, I mean, you want to go a little deeper than that, because what are some of the benefits?
What are, well,
But with the collaboration, I mean, is
Yes.
that what you're saying? Do you want to know what they are, or do you want us to share those with?
I want them to be shared tonight, so people,
Yes.
if you're listening, you would have a clear understanding of what those benefits are.
yes, and I can pull that up from what we've presented before and share that so that we make sure and get everything.
I think the question is, I think we want to talk through it tonight, is what Stephanie's point is.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, I contacted, like, I talked to some people at Lansing, and they don't do early release, they do late start.
Yes.
As a district. And they discussed, like, the benefits to the late start rather than the early release.
Yeah.
I just think we need to kind of maybe talk through the benefits of that. Why an early release? What is the benefit for the teachers? What's the benefit for the students?
So early release as opposed to late start, that piece we looked at, we knew the high school was already implementing a late start. We didn't feel that would work for the whole district. A large piece of what we want to do is with collaboration, that vertical planning with teachers from all buildings. Well, you see how drop off is in the mornings, and if we wanted to involve our teachers in some kind of a vertical collaboration, imagine them dismissing from that and then trying to go back to their buildings during dismissal or drop off time. That would be almost impossible for teachers to make it back to their own buildings on time, get prepared for the day and start the school day. And that was one of the biggest pieces that
We actually have in our plans to have that vertical planning in 4 different time periods, you know, quarterly. And
So an hour is really short by the time
Right.
they're done, and
But I think
how's that gonna work?
so if it's well planned, we can make, we're only gonna do it 4 times. But we want the middle school teachers to have those discussions with the high school teachers, for example, math. I mean, we know, and we know it's a short time period, but it has to be done with fidelity and good planning. It won't be loosely run. And that's what we need to ensure. But the whole, I mean, I agree with what Tanya, you're going through this, but the whole idea of I mean, I know a lot of it is centered around the elementary school, and that it helps them tremendously at the end of the day. And Tanya's right, that it will not work in the morning, especially at the elementary school, with just the way we're configured. It'll work much better for both the middle school and the elementary at the end of the day. You know, the high school, we know they've been using late start, and they love late start, but we know that it's a lot better if we're all doing it the same way, not high school doing it early or late start and then early release for the other 2. We want to be consistent across the board. I think that some of the feedback that we've got supports that. The teachers, especially the elementary teachers and middle school teachers, they really support the early release. And so I don't know what else you want to add, but
we've put a lot of thought and a lot of work into planning this. So we already have a calendar of what things will be covered each of those Wednesdays. We also talked about, you know, our PLCs could be focused on that day and not, if I'm doing a late start, I'm going to be focused on, well, I need to get to my classroom. I've got this to do. I've got that to do. Whereas if your PLC is after school or after students are dismissed at the end of the day, then you can be focused on your content and what you're addressing that day instead of trying to get to your classroom.
and we think that some teachers will continue that discussion if they can after early release. I mean, if they're not assigned some of the duties, you know, with pickup, there's some opportunities for further discussion. That would never happen with late start. So
So they won't have to do their after-school duties that day.
No.
That will be huge.
We've got that planned out already to where we've got other folks who will be covering those duties, so our teachers can get right into their PLCs.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what, it seems like we talked about this last time, the pluses and minuses, and the only real concerns were whether the public was aware and if they were willing to accept the late early release, and the data seems to show it. So we're kind of redebating the whole
Well,
issue
my,
again.
my thing is, I read the comments that the people have submitted, and I'd like us to address some of those. Some of them were, what were the benefits? And some were, why not have an early start? Why are we having a late start? And why not on Friday? Like, some people are asking Fridays. I just would like us to state that here so we can show that we've read the comments and that we have put a lot of thought into this.
Well, I think part of the issue, if we approve it, is they got to put out a publication that states some of that. I mean, we got to approve the calendar one way or the other, and we can put some of the facts out, but we can't sit here and rehash this all tonight. I mean, it looks like there's general support. We're trying to improve the academics. I mean, the morning thing. I mean, you just look at the middle school or the high school having an early release. They always have all the athletics anyway, so not doing it on a morning, it just shortens up their day anyway. So I don't know. I mean, I think we need to get this the calendar approved so people can make the plans. Now, if we want to put out a publication that explains the reasons and why, I mean, I'm all for that. But I don't know.
that will definitely happen. I mean,
Yes.
that's the next step is to get this rolled out with all the information, with all the things that you're talking about too, Stephanie, and what are the benefits of this, why we're doing it, and we have to do that with, once again, some fidelity, and we think we can do that.
Becky Nazarode and I have already met to discuss a lot of these comments and how we'd address them in a publication to
In a
parents.
positive way.
So how do we measure the success of every Wednesday? Teacher collaboration?
I think a lot of
And-
it will be measured in how we take that information and use it in the classrooms. I know for our elementary, I think there'll be a lot more that they could do, a lot less stress and a lot more things that they can implement in the classroom with fidelity instead of trying to scramble and take away their own personal plan time and I wasn't able to eat lunch today because I had to do this and this.
I think the other thing, Chris, we do is at the end of the year we poll our teachers again. How did this work?
I'm
for
just
you?
asking.
No, I think it's a good question.
So I don't think it's a poll to teachers. I think obviously the long-term view is that we improve academic
Yes.
results.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that we're going to need to assess whether this is productive or not well before the final academic results are in, because we know that doesn't happen quickly. So I think if this were passed, I think we need to come up with a set of more short-term measurable things that will assess whether this was productive or not. And a poll would be interesting,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I get
I'm
you.
more interested in what did we accomplish during that hour, and what evidence do we have that it will move academic results in a positive way. And I think that, frankly, if I make a motion on this, I think I would put the caveat that this is for one calendar year. It's a kind of a trial thing, and I would say that we can't, before school starts, we have to agree on what the measurement looks like. That would be my view of the world. I think the last thing, and I'm hesitant to say it, but I think it's worth saying. This has to come with high accountability, and this is not a early release. Does not mean it's the earlier. I get off earlier today,
Nope.
and if we don't have that level of accountability, and I believe we will, or we wouldn't even be talking about this. But if we don't have that level of accountability, this will fail.
Yeah.
Have our teachers been trained in PLC?
They've received, yes. So they've received the solution tree training several years ago. And then we brought in Core One, and we've been doing that training over 2 years now with PLC Plus. And now that we have Brandy on staff too, she's bringing a level of accountability to that. And so she will be involved directly in the PLCs. She's got a schedule of how she splits things up, and then at the middle school with our instructional coaches, elementary and middle, and then high school we will have those team leads who will be vital in putting this together too. So there is a level of accountability built into this, and we will have data. And I know a lot of it's going to be the product that we have coming out of it. So it could be working toward unit guides, math, looking at our math data. How do we, break our students out for BSP? What do their scores look like? So there's going to be a huge level of accountability with this.
Other comments?
I mean, I reviewed a lot of the comments. There was a lot on the forward and a lot of other questions out there, but I think, operationally, if you feel like all of that has been thought through and planned out and can be worked through, it would be good to give you that opportunity to see if it moves the needle on academic achievement.
That's the whole purpose.
Well, I mean, academically, I think we're committed to providing this support one way or the other, and we have to. Optics in some way are bad because it looks like we're shortening the day, but we have to pay the teachers for that time, or we have to adjust the day. So it would cost us a lot of money to do this, extend the day an hour or so every week to do this way. I mean, it's an unfortunate. It's taking classroom time from the students, but I don't know that there's a dollar situation here to some degree that we have to wrestle with.
And maybe said differently, Jim, if this really proves fruitful, then when we think about those dollars in future years, we might say the planning and PLC time was so valuable that we need to go find those dollars to, get the contact time back and achieve the PLC time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could I just say, in talking about accountability, when I was teaching, we had a certain agenda that we had to work on every time we had a PLC time. Our PLC times took our personal plan time away, but we had a certain agenda that had to be followed. No one was able to just leave because it was an early release day. You can't just you can't just make your doctor's appointments for that time. You have to be there, and you have a certain amount of accountability to get those things done. When those weren't done by the end of PLC time, we had to meet at other times on our own time, during after school, before school, or give up another plan time. So, there is accountability there. I don't know about all the buildings, but I know that, and we also had the principals wandering around watching to see that everybody's in their right spaces and doing what they're supposed to do. And so it's not possible to just make that an extra day off or hour off.
Never.
And just to clarify, I thank you for that clarification, Linda. And I wasn't necessarily implying that would happen, but I think for the public, when we're talking about taking an hour out of the school day, we need to be pretty explicit on those points. But I wasn't implying that did
Oh
happen.
yeah, I know that. Just to make it clear, I just wanted to make sure people understand what's going on during those meetings. It's not just a gossip time,
No.
whatever.
Any other discussion? All right, I'll take a shot at this. So I would move that we approve action item 5.1, which is the approval of the 2024-2025 calendar, which includes an early release, and that the caveats are that it is approved for 1 year, and that we agree before the first day of school how we will track the interim results. Is there a second?
I would second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried 7-0. All right. Action item 5.2, approval of non-resident student capacity adoption. We heard from Cody. I think this is less about what we want to do and more about what we have to do. But certainly open to any discussion before we.
I'm kind of there with you, and I think they did a pretty good job laying out the limits,
I do
and
too.
we just have to. The rules are the rules until this thing gets sorted out. So hopefully I'd move well, unless anybody else has comments, I'd move we approve action item 5.2.
And second that. So moving to second, all those in favor raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. All right, action item 5.3, this was additive on the math textbooks that was in Tanya's presentation. I think the only question, Lauren, I assume this is all budgeted and
Yes.
operating?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any questions on the process or the selections? Especially from our.
I just had a general question. Are these new softwares or textbooks? I mean,
Yes.
so the teachers will all be learning new materials?
Yes.
Well,
And the cost includes all of the professional development, all the student books, all the online access.
Any other comments, questions? All right, I would move that we approve action item 5.3 for the math textbook adoption as presented. Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried 7-0. Okay, we do need a executive session tonight, so I would move that we adjourn for 5 minutes for bio break, and then meet in executive session for 20 minutes to discuss non-elected personnel matters. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
With me.
Oh, sorry, with Lauren. which is the renewal of directors and coordinators. And so I would move that we renew the following directors and coordinators as presented by Mr. Feldkamp: Brandy Taylor, Mitch Loomis, Forrest Krager, Audra Boone, Rebecca Peresta, Becky Naselroad, Barb Smith, and Jill Keatsman. Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimously. In terms of any announcements or discussion, we do have the special meeting on the 22nd.
Yep.
Lauren talked about a budget meeting on the 29th. Anything else, Lauren?
No, we can get up to 4 members that want to join in, either coming to the office or via Zoom, but we just have to, I'll kind of let Justin manage the 4 that are most interested in that process. That would include Randy Corns from Greenbush and probably Dustin Avey, some strategy, for mill levy as we move forward. Some discussion about bond and interest, obviously, and so these all tie together.
And we could even, if everybody wanted to come, we could even have a special.
It'd have to be a special board meeting, yeah.
Any other comments? Meeting adjourned.